More comments today from the Kremlin over those talks that didn't produce a breakthrough in the war in Ukraine. An aide to Vladimir Putin says Tuesday's meeting in Moscow between Russia's president and Donald Trump's top two negotiators was useful and that talks will continue. Well, a big sticking point for Russia is Ukraine's potential membership in NATO, and NATO foreign ministers have been meeting today in Brussels to discuss Ukraine. This comes after a senior NATO official recently said there's no indication that Moscow is willing to make meaningful concessions to end this war. Well, for its part, the EU is trying to put a dent in Russia's war chest by phasing out Russian natural gas imports by late 2027. I want to head to Washington to CNN's Kylie Atwood on this. Worth noting that Secretary Rubio was not there for these talks. Just how much real progress, as you understand it, has been made at this point?
Well, the readout that we got from Russian officials certainly does not give the indication that the two parties walked away on the verge of a possible agreement, Becky. We heard from the Kremlin taking questions after this meeting yesterday, saying that President Putin did agree with the U.S. officials, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, on a number of issues, but that he also did not hide his negative views on a number of the proposals, indicating that there is still some significant hesitation on behalf of Russia to move forward with what the U.S. was putting on the table, which they had discussed with the Ukrainians. Now, we did hear from President Trump yesterday during a meeting with his cabinet at the White House while his officials were over in Russia meeting with President Putin. Listen to what President Trump said about that ongoing meeting.
Our people are over in Russia right now to see if we can get it settled. Not an easy situation, let me tell you. What a mess. It's a war that never would have happened if I were president. Not even a chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years.
Now, one of the other things that the Kremlin said is, interestingly, that there are now 4 documents, not just one document, that the two parties are going to be discussing. We don't know the details of what is in those 4 documents that are now standing. We do know that there are no plans for further follow-up meetings in person between President Putin and Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. They said that they would follow up by phone. And, of course, we're watching to see what U.S. officials say today about this, after they briefed the White House. Going into these meetings, we should note that Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Sunday, after meeting with the Ukrainians, that this was incredibly complicated. He cast this as being something that still had some work to be done. Even though the U.S. is talking in person with both sides, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to get both sides to close that gap of where those disagreements still stand.